This is a response to Ronald Jacksons' two YouTube videos directly speaking to me with his long list of things supporting his mate Gary Tomlinson. I said to myself yesterday I wasn't going to say any more about this, but I only just found out about these videos that he put up about me, and I thought I can't let some of what he said go, because once again he's got a few things wrong, just like quite a few of Gary Tomlinson's puppets seem to get a lot wrong. So here we go. First question I'd ask you, Ronnie, is would you work for free? Would you work hundreds of hours and not get paid in any way, shape or form for it? I don't think you would. I'm interested to see what your mate says tonight on his show. You talk about me not sharing Ask Tomo. I deliberately didn't share Ask Tomo on any social media up until 2 days ago. And I have shared it absolutely everywhere now. So it wasn't me asking people to share it. Yes, I shared it privately to people. It's up to them if they shared it. But I deliberately made the point to share it 2 days ago after everything that's happened. You talk about me being in prison. Yes, as in my book, which you may have only just read the little excerpt you keep banging on about. I was in prison. Nothing to do with porn. Nothing to do with the vile, horrible stuff that your mate spreads. I was in prison for growing marijuana, as I said in my book. You keep referring to this chapter in my this paragraph in my book, and I don't know whether it was deliberate or not, but you said the word young girls, the phrase young girls. I never used the word young. In relation to that everybody keeps talking about, I spent a hell of a lot of time in America, and over there many people call women, perhaps British people would say women, over 18 girls. So this whole thing about me trying to say that I would go and shoot porn of underage girls, which is what you're all trying to say, is vile and is wrong. I never use the word young. Anything like that repulses me. All of the content that I ever used, never shot video content, by the way, I never shot pictures myself. I bought all of the content that has to have the licenses and the age verification with it, that was legal and licensed. I bought it all from the US. And that's that. I suggest, Ronald, go and look at the music video called Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue. I don't think Motley Crue, when they're singing about girls, are talking about underage girls. Just a cheap shot to try and spread horrible rumours about me, Ronnie. And when somebody accuses me publicly of doing such horrible things, yes, I am going to take action. Next, you talk about the British Masters. You say that British Masters probably regret the day they ever met me, like I say I do Gary. Go and ask the British Masters. Yes, they can't talk about the legal stuff, but they can tell you their opinions. And I'm sure they will tell you, considering I still speak to them, that they think all of this was Gary Tomlinson's issue. Why, if your mate is such a stand-up, honest, man's man guy, would he not? Why would he have took them to court? You talk about the DVD that I made with Gary. We had a deal where it was 50-50. I didn't just hold the camera. Yes, I shot it. I put it all together. I produced the DVD. I did all the graphics. And it was my role to market them. So it was a 50-50 deal that your mate told me, didn't give me an option, told me I didn't own the rights to anymore. And that's why it's part of the legal issues, the legal dispute going on, Ronnie. You talk about recording phone calls. I don't normally record phone calls with anybody, apart from Zoom meetings that are automatically recorded. People know that's another thing. I only record phone calls when I know I need to. And it's a bloody good job I did record the phone call, because after trying 3 times that particular day in question, I knew it wasn't going to go well. You talk about my car fire. Your mate's theory is I set my car on fire for insurance money. Well, my car was set on fire and I got insurance money anyway, but not enough to cover the car that it was. And why would I do that, Ronnie? And it's embarrassing and maddening that you would even think that I would do that with my son and my girlfriend sitting 20 foot away. The fact is, I had the phone call with Gary, and 70 minutes later my car was set on fire by 3 people, as proven on CCTV, who ran up and down the road I live on, and that's what happened. Again, diversions, distractions, whatever. You talk about turning up at Gary's to get the 7 pigeons, which he had previously agreed to. Can I ask you this? Why do you think Gary refused for me to have those pigeons picked up by courier like I'd asked him before? And with him refusing, wouldn't you think there's something not quite right there that he insists I go and pick them up? Wouldn't you think that? Why would he refuse for me to have the courier pick him up instead? Create no hassle. As a result of which, Robert Tomlinson got arrested, charged and sentenced for attacking my brother, because his dad refused, playing games, not to let me send a courier for the 7 pigeons in question. Just think about that a minute, Ron. Think about it. The video already came out when Rob Tomlinson started attacking my brother. My brother came in front of me because Rob Tomlinson was coming for me. I'm not a fighter, I'm a lover. I'll use my fingers to fight and I'll use my head, but Rob Tomlinson only went after my brother, and my son started videoing it because of that. And again, all because Gary Tomlinson refused for me to have the couriers pick them up. Instead, he insisted me on going there. And then messed me about, emailing me, which I didn't see until later on. Why wouldn't he just give me the 7 pigeons? I was there already. You say, Ronnie, men sort it out. Face to face. It's not my style, Ronnie. I'm a lover, not a fighter, believe it or not. And I would question that Gary Tomlinson isn't the man's man you think he is, because at the end of the day, he's took me and the British Masters to court. He's reported me twice for harassment to the police. Is that really the kind of man's man you think he is? You talk about bidding on pigeons, Ronnie. You're missing a key important element. There is nothing wrong with somebody bidding on a pigeon like the Mick pigeon, the owner of a One Loft race. That I've said before, there's nothing wrong with them bidding on a pigeon that they've raced. What's wrong is that that person knows the maximum bid in question. If Tomlinson was bidding on another external site, that's fine in my opinion. But the difference is when you go and bid on a pigeon on Elamar, for instance, you don't know what the maximum bid is. So you're able to increase your bid if you can see you've been outbid or not. The key difference here, Ronnie, which you're not getting, is that Gary Tomlinson has access in the administration area of that site to see what other people's max bids are before the auction finishes. And that's what's wrong with it, because he can then say, Joe Bloggs has bid this, I'll go in and bid a 10 or more. That's the key difference. And your mate prides himself on being totally honest, open and transparent, which he says pretty much every time he's on video. My question is, if you're so open and honest and transparent, why would you have to use a false name? Let alone a false name of somebody that doesn't even exist in pigeons. Why would you do that? Then going on to your video too, Ronald. Everybody's allowed opinions. Of course they are. But what your mate does is try to suppress people's opinions unduly if they speak what they think is the truth or they go against it. You know what they say about opinions. Everybody's got one. You make the comment about pigeon people being very strange, something that Gary Tomlinson posted. My question is, why did he remove that comment? He likes removing comments after he's spoken before he thinks. Next, my 3 years trying to help turn around the pigeon sport has cost me thousands of pounds. It hasn't made me any money. Doesn't help the fact that mates of yours, like Gary Tomlinson, didn't pay me a penny for the 100 hours of work I did. Talk about the immigrants thing. Why would you even say that on a video about pigeons? Blackpool hotels are probably full of immigrants. What kind of man on a live show would even say that? Ask yourself that. I pretty much know what Gary's expenditure is. I've seen his accounts on Company's House. That company is making a loss every year. There's a disparity there. It's up to him what he does. But if he is making a loss and he has got so much expenses, how can he afford all the solicitor's fees he's attracting? Or unless, of course, it's a personal friend to his new daughter-in-law and it's not costing him anywhere near as much as perhaps it cost the British Masters to fight. You talk about this paragraph biting me in the arse. Read it, get some context, come out of your little mindset and think possibly, why would I even write in a book that I hope to sell thousands of, that I would even think of mentioning, let alone reproducing in a book about this girls thing. Like I said, motley crew, girls, girls, girls. And you're also accusing me this, or hinting at it. At the same time, when I had young children myself, the lowest of the low, I've been in prison. I know what sex offenders are thought of. I know how they're treated. And it's just the only cheap thing you can try and do to twist. Because you miss out in the book that I said all of my content was bought from the States, legal, licensed, with age verification. What else have we got, Ronnie? Ronald? Yeah, you're right. He said, she said. On the £2,000 gun threat, £2,000 to blow a car up. You are right. It is he said, she said. But if you notice on Ask Tomo, I put a very critical thing. I put a question mark and I asked the question, did Gary Tomlinson really do this? Because it is only one man's word against another. What isn't one man's word against another, and which is actual fact, is the Rob Tomlinson message sent to that particular man saying he can get a car blown up for 50 quid. That's a fact. And what kind of people would admit that? Not kind of people I want to be associated with. Because we all know people. But would you ever admit? We know people that live a certain life. But would you want to admit that? Is that something proud that you're proud of? Especially considering that 2 years ago my car was blown up on my drive by 3 people. You said it's not a big thing to know somebody that you could pay £50 to get a car burnt out. To me it is. It's a cowardly thing to do. And tell my family that 2 years ago when our car was burnt out. You talk about the flyer, Ronnie. He didn't pay for the flyer. Your mate did not pay me a penny for the flyer. And those roller banners that up until 3 weeks ago, now he's won his court case that he kept rolling out, didn't even pay me for those roller banners either. Believe it or not, I genuinely left Gary Tomlinson's name on that application form. It was corrected with an hour and a half. It was a 2-page application form. So as I'm editing it on my screen, towards the bottom was just missed off. Why would I even deliberately do that? When I've said the British Masters have been very good. They paid me up front for doing the work. Why would I even do that? Because that's against the British Masters, who have actually paid me up front. Why would I do that other than it being a mistake? You talk about me affecting his wife, Annette. My personal opinion is this. When Gary offered me a settlement to finish our business 2 years ago and then changed his mind an hour later, I think if this wasn't for Annette, this situation would have been done 2 years ago. But I think her influence and her opinion about things is probably the reason this has not been finished a long time ago. That's just my opinion. My issue is everything that's happened. You say Gary had never had any problem with the British Masters, but actually before I was officially involved with them, he said about sending them medication to help them. He asked the question about, he posed the question about auction fees. He did have an issue prior to me publicly being involved. So, he did. What else are we talking about, Ronnie, just to address everything? You go on about this paragraph in my book again. Again, Ronnie, never use the word young, and they're all over 18, so it's a cheap shot, and it's probably the worst of the worst you can get as a cheap shot, to be honest. Just go and watch that video, girls, girls, girls. Do a favour. You say think it's vile that people produce porn. I assume you meant any porn. I completely agree. Anything that is involved in underage porn is sickening, vile, and I would do my very best to catch anybody doing it. But I think you were talking about the fact that I used to be involved in the porn industry for legal and licensed content. I think you thought that you would never watch that. So I would ask you, have you ever watched porn, Ronnie? Talk about tax selling young birds. I don't quite know what you're going on with this one about, but just so you know, Ronnie, the tax rules in the UK, so you can earn up to £6,000 from a side income tax-free. So you can earn up to £6,000, just so you know. If you don't think Gary Tomlinson has bullied and harassed me online, then go and watch some of his historic videos over the last 2 years. Admittedly, he thinks he's clever in saying things and not mentioning their name, but trust me, that man's read out all kinds of stuff to try and bully and harass me. Talk about little cliques, Ronnie. He's got his little clique of, as you call it, supporters, and I've got a few. Not as many as him. The one, and I tell you, people say about me being jealous. I'm not jealous of that man at all, but I am envious as to how many people up until a week ago supported him, no matter what he said or did. I'm envious about that. That's a strong following of people that you can do and say anything, pretty much. And up until a week ago, he had a very strong following. I know for a fact now that some of that following is dropping away based upon the comments people have made to me and what have you. But yeah, there's no jealousy here. I couldn't be ever jealous of a man like that. I am envious, though, of his hardcore followers that he's got. It's mad. I say, I think that's changed a little bit, but yeah. What else have we got, Ronnie? I don't want to bore you. I said I don't care anymore. I do care about people knowing about what Gary Tomlinson's like. I think I've done pretty much everything I can to make that happen. I said I don't care about helping the sport in the UK anymore because it's unhelpable. With people like Tomlinson and others involved, it's a toxic mess, cancerous, horrible place, and life's too short. So I'm just going to focus on helping my son raise his pigeons and keep some pigeons myself and fly them around the garden. That's what I meant. What else? I've been totally truthful. Nothing to hide with me. For a point, Gary would have hated the idea of me working with British Master, and I'll tell you why. Gary knows, he'll never admit it, what I did to help him with his race in 2019, 2020. He saw his entrance increase by double. I'm not saying I was completely responsible for that, but ideas like guaranteeing the prize money, whether he says it or not, was my idea that he had to get past through the boss. But it was my idea, brought up in Portugal, and other people will verify that because they were in the same room as we were talking about it. All of the improvements for marketing, all of that stuff helped double. And Gary now is the Facebook Live star that he is because he learned a lot from me. He hates me working with the British Masters. He hated the idea of it because British Masters, the Sullivans are successful people in their own right. They've set up a great setup there already, and he knows the power that me working with him would have brought, and that would have been a fear-based thing for Gary. And so the only thing you can do is take them to court about a leaflet. That's a real man's man, Ronald. A real man's man does that. So you're wrong. I didn't cause the issue with British Masters. Gary took them to court when it could have just been a simple, don't use the leaflet. Bit of an argument could have been done. I suggest you ask the Sullivan brothers what they think about me, Ronald. That's about it. I hope I've answered your questions. Like I said, life's too short for this stuff. And remember, as recently as Thursday last week, I have offered to resolve all issues between here and I. It doesn't mean that we're going to like each other. We're going to hate each other probably for the rest of our lives. But I've 4 times tried to resolve this. The first time, 3 days after my car was blown up. He agreed to an amount, changed his mind 1 hour later. Then via the RPRA, offered me another figure. I offered him a figure to finish it all. He refused. Then in October, I put an email to him reaching out saying, life's too short, do you want to try and resolve this between us? No response. And only last week via his solicitor, I put another proposal to him to finish all of this. It's your mate that doesn't want to finish it, so I will keep going. But you know what? I've reached a point now where I've done my job. I've told people my opinions about him. I've told people what I think has happened and what's happened with me. People can go and make their own minds up. I'm not here to change anybody's opinion that doesn't want to be changed. But a lot of people in the last week have seen what he's really like. And what I would leave you with this thought, Ronald. Why did he openly lie? It'd have been better saying nothing last Monday. It'd have been far better saying absolutely nothing. Because the only reason I shared what I shared on the Tuesday is that I could not stand to watch him out and out lie about the reason the British Masters weren't going. It was nothing to do with him. I couldn't stand it. He'd have been better just to keep his mouth shut. But why would you lie if you got nothing to hide? And more importantly, why would you want a confidentiality agreement in there? Ask yourself that, Ronnie. Keep well.